YouTube. My name is Mayo. Welcome to my channel and thank you for being here. I'm going to be discussing how the new moon in Leo that is happening on the 28th of July is going to affect you according to your ascendant. This new moon is happening at around 5 degrees of Leo. Sun is dominant in the sign of Leo because the sun rules the sign of Leo. Any type of lunation in the sign of Leo is usually a very happy and positive one, especially this particular new moon. It's being aspected by the planet Jupiter in a very positive and harmonious trine. This is supportive energy. This is the good news of this new moon. So something really positive is going to happen in the house of the new moon and in the house of Aries, because these two houses are speaking to each other in a very harmonious aspect called a trine. However, the bad news is kind of all over the place. As we all know, there's a bigger transit that is happening just a few days after this new moon, and that is of course the transit of Mars, Uranus and the North Node conjunction. So we cannot look at this full moon without acknowledging that bigger transit. However, in this video we are going to stick to this transit. If you didn't watch my video on the special conjunction, I suggest you go back and watch that video, because it's going to give you a bigger picture of this how new moon might actually play out. Whenever the sun and the moon meet in a sign, it is a new beginning. It's a seeding time. It is a new moon. Even though Jupiter is the big star of this lunation, he is, however, going retrograde very soon. I believe it's probably the next day after the lunation. Currently, he is stationary direct. So he is standing still and holding all this energy that is going to come through at the time of this lunation. How well are you doing with those things at this point? Jupiter wants you to go back and possibly make corrections where you may have made mistakes. But for some, if you did everything for some people, if you did everything according to the way Jupiter wanted you to, this is the time that Jupiter will definitely bring in the rewards for all the work that you did while he was going forward. As I said, this is a good news, bad news type of new moon, and perhaps just some joy for some people who may not be affected by all the other bigger transits that are going on at this time. I highly doubt that nobody will be affected, but some people may be affected more than others. So the bad news at this lunation is coming from the planet Mercury and Uranus. They're squaring each other at this lunation, and whenever Mercury squares Uranus, we tend to receive some unexpected news, and sometimes it's not very positive. But that's also something you have to look into your own natal birth chart to see how these planets are actually aspecting your own natal birth chart. So for instance, in my chart, Mercury is actually trining my Uranus, so that can actually change the story to a certain extent. The thing that makes this really challenging is because at the same time Mercury is opposing planet Saturn, who is in the sign of Aquarius. So there is an opposition and two squares. This is what we call a T-square in astrology. This is a very challenging aspect. So you are going to be pushed to take action whether you like it or not, and you're going to possibly receive some opposition. And whenever Saturn and Mercury oppose, this is some type of restriction coming from authority figures, the bosses, or something to do with the government, with rules and regulations. Let's examine what Leo rules in the zodiac. Leo is the natural ruler of the 5th house. The 5th house is a fun house. So essentially, this is supposed to be a moon that's going to highlight the fun that we have in our life, or the lack of fun that or the lack of fun in our life. This house also rules over a romance, vacations, entertainment, just living your life from the heart. This is about living your life joyfully and from the heart. So are you happy in your daily life? Are you happy in your job? Are you happy in your marriage? Are you happy in the area where Leo rules? This is the area where you're supposed to shine naturally. This is the house of the sun. Do you feel like you're being appreciated in the Leo house? If not, this is the time that you're going to decide to make some major changes in pursuit of happiness. And that could have anything to do with your children, your creativity, your creative talents, or perhaps your romantic relationships. So the biggest influence here is the Mercury square Uranus and the opposition to Saturn. This aspect is going to make some people nervous, anxious, and perhaps unpredictable, maybe because of the news that they're going to be receiving at this lunation. The news could have something to do with endings in the houses highlighted by the T-square. And since Leo also rules over children, we may hear some more about the Roe v. Wade situation. Perhaps there are going to be some changes, or perhaps even further restrictions about that ruling. However, I prefer to stay with personal astrology. I always want to focus on the individual when it comes to astrology. It's very likely that we're going to hear some type of negative news that affects our children, something to do with rules and regulation, perhaps something to do with travel, since Mercury, the messenger, is involved, and Mercury does rule over travel and our immediate environment. Let's also remember that Jupiter is involved here. Jupiter rules long distance travel, so there might be something in the news about travel restrictions. If you like the content of this video, please hit like and subscribe. Also remember to share my video on your social media. This really helps my channel grow. And you never know who would benefit from listening to this video. So please share, like, and subscribe. If you've never had a reading with me, this is an excellent time for you to do so. We are at a time when there's going to be major changes in our life, and these changes are inevitable. I am offering a special reading for only $60. This reading focuses on the Mars-Uranus and North Node conjunction. After this reading, you will have an idea of what could possibly happen, and the big changes that are coming in your life. So take advantage of that reading while I still have it on offer, and the link is right below this video. Also leave me a comment in the comment section below this video. I really want to know how you think this lunation is going to affect you according to your ascendant. This also really helps my channel grow. So let's take a look at the aspects of this lunation. This lunation is happening in the sign of Leo at about 5 degrees Leo. This chart is cast for New York because this is my location. So find out what time this lunation is happening in your own location so that you can have an ascendant for your chart. So we're only going to look at the aspects. We're going to ignore the houses, because the aspects will always stay the same no matter where you're located. And if you don't have your own natal birth chart, I suggest you go to astro.com and get your free natal birth chart. That will make it easier for you to follow along. The new moon is happening in the sign of Leo, and there we see the sun and the moon conjunct at 5 degrees of Leo. This is the definition of a new moon. Both luminaries conjunct in a house at the same degree. Mercury is also transiting the sign of Leo. However, he's really too far away from this lunation to have a direct impact on the new moon. Mercury is, however, making an aspect that is quite challenging, and this aspect is squaring the conjunction that we have in the sign of Taurus. He's squaring Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. Whenever Mercury squares Mars, that's an anger aspect. That's somebody lashing out for no reason. That's somebody really coming up with really fighting words. That's an aspect of anger. And since they're all since Mars is conjunct Uranus, this might be This might come out really unexpectedly. So if you have a hot temper naturally, this is time for you to watch that. It could get you into some really hot trouble that will have a lasting impact, or may even change the course of your life. Because remember, this is aspecting the conjunction that's going to happen a few days after this lunation. So whatever it is that you do around this, whatever it is that you do or get into around the time of the lunation is going to ultimately play out over the next few weeks, because it is going to be part of the conjunction that's happening on the part of the conjunction that's happening at the end of the month. So think about what you say to people. Really take a moment to pause. Mercury is also opposing planet Saturn, who's currently transiting in the sign of Aquarius. And as I said earlier, whenever Mercury opposes Saturn, this is somebody delivering some news that we may not like, and they may deliver it in a rather dramatic fashion that is going to instigate or push us into action. This is part of the T-square. Mercury opposing Saturn, and Saturn squaring Uranus, Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. And on the other side of the T-square, Mercury, this conjunction is also squaring Mercury. This is what we call a skip step in astrology. The square to Mercury and the North Node is a skip step. And that means there's some information that is missing, or there's something that we need to do that is a mercurial thing that we didn't do before, and it needs to be done at around the time of this lunation. And then Saturn square the North Nodes, that is a skip step about something that we need to do, something that is very serious and grounding, something that is going to push us into our something that is going to push us into our destiny. Whatever it is that we're doing at this time, we have to think long term. We have to think about the long term. We have to think about our future. The actions we take at this time, good or bad, are going to stay around for be around for a while. Because remember, this conjunction is happening after all in an earth sign. Taurus is an earth sign, and the square is coming from another fixed sign. Aquarius is another fixed sign. So fixed signs like things to stay the same. So this is why this square has been happening over an extended period of time, almost like breaking down structures or foundations that we're so used to, the things that we want to stay the same. It's been slowly chipping away at that foundation. It's been slowly chipping away at those things that we love and value. And it's going to continue because the square from Saturn is going to be around, and we're going to feel this very intensely around the full moon in the sign of Aquarius on the 11th of August. Mercury is going to break away from this T-square. So the news will be delivered and Mercury will move along. Mercury is the messenger. He does not stay in one place for too long. He delivers the message and he keeps it moving. Mercury in Leo is trining the asteroid Chiron in the sign of Aries. So perhaps whatever happens, whatever bad news we get at this time, there will be some type of healing. There will be someone there to help you along to deal with whatever it is that's going to happen around this lunation or around the time of the conjunction. However, the asteroid Chiron is also squaring Venus at this lunation. That is a breakup aspect. If this is impacting your relationship houses, this is indicating that there will be some type of breakup or some type of pain in a relationship. Perhaps one of the partners is going to say some very upsetting news to the other person. It could be a situation like that. So whatever these houses rule in your horoscope, there will be some type of upsetting news. And perhaps there will be someone there when all this is happening, somebody who you can talk to, somebody who will listen to you and give you a shoulder to cry on. So this is why I call it the good news, bad news moon. We can't avoid it. We can't avoid it. Mercury is delivering something we don't want to hear at this time. The biggest positive aspect of this new moon that could possibly bring some joy is the fact that this new moon is being trined by planet Jupiter, who's very, very powerful because he's stationary direct at this lunation. However, there is a wide orb, so this is not an exact trine, but any aspect, any positive aspect from Jupiter is very, very welcome. So let's all look to this aspect and hopefully get some joy out of this new and hopefully experience some type of joy from this new moon. The biggest message at this lunation is, what is your joy? What truly makes you happy? Are you happy in the happy in the Leo house of your horoscope? Are you doing something in your existence, in your daily life, to bring some joy to this area of Leo? If you're not doing anything to make you happy, to give you inner joy, you're not having fun in your life, you're not enjoying your children, you're not being creative, is there something that you can do, something that is a talent that you've been, is there something that you do, a talent, something that you could use to perhaps make a living, start your own business? The fifth house does rule over our talents and hobbies. Some of us do make our hobby, and some of us do eventually make our hobby become a way of earning a living. So is there something that you're really talented at? Is there some type of talent or creative ability that you have that you could use to that you could use to start your own business, that you can use to shine? This is your moment. This is the moment to go for it. So the new moon trine Jupiter is going to give us some type of hope and enthusiasm. It's going to raise our spirits. We're going to feel happy. We're going to feel like going out there and having fun, perhaps going to a barbecue, going to the beach and just letting loose. And for some people, this lunation is going to inspire them to want to take a vacation, to want to travel abroad. So just watch out for the Mercury square Uranus. Make sure you have all your travel details and information, your passports, your paperwork, all in order, and also make sure to get to the airport on time, because Mercury square Uranus could actually cause accidents. Mars is a big part of this square, and of course the nodes of fate are also part of this square. It's possible that you get into an argument with somebody and they absolutely totally flip out on you and act in a rather unexpected and dramatic way, bigger than what you expected. So that is a real thing to watch out for. And Mars and Uranus conjunct is the accident aspect of the horoscope. It doesn't mean that you stay home and do nothing. Just be very mindful of your surroundings. Be mindful of aggressive people or being the aggressor yourself. It's very likely this is the fighting aspect. This is the harsh words aspect. This is Mercury square Mars and Uranus and the North Node at the same time could bring out road rage. So if you're driving, just watch out for people who are being aggressive, and if they stop, don't get into a confrontation with them. Don't get into an unnecessary confrontation. Don't get into an unnecessary confrontation. Just keep driving, go to your destination, and aim to get there safely. So a little bit more on the Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter is stationary direct at this lunation, so he's very powerful. So when Jupiter is retrograding, you have to look when Jupiter is retrograding, he is going to be looking over areas that he already traveled. So it's not necessarily that he's going to bring us new things. He's going to look over what you did, or perhaps the things that you missed doing while he was traveling direct. And for some people, this is the time that they will actually be able to achieve more, because now Jupiter is looking at the situations and saying, you did well here, here's your reward. Or you didn't do this very well, you need to redo it. So look forward to correcting mistakes and redoing things in your Aries house. Aries Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your fifth house. This is where you're going to have some new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever we start something, something has to end. The fifth house is a happy house. The Sun loves being in the fifth house because he rules the fifth house. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to start something to do with your creative ability. This is time for you to get creative. If you have a hidden talent, perhaps you're a painter, or you write songs, or you have some other type of creative, or you have some other type of talents, this is the time for you to begin doing something in that area. Do something that gives you pure joy, something that makes you happy. For some, this will be a brand new for some people, this brand new beginning could have something to do with a romance. Perhaps you're going to initiate a hot romance with perhaps this is the time you initiate a hot summer romance. And for others who've been trying to conceive, when the sun and the moon meet in the 5th house, this is an excellent time because both energies of creation are meeting in the house of creativity, and children are a result of our creative ability. So yes, this is a time for you to definitely go for it, if of course that's what you want. And if it's not what you want, just be aware that this energy is very fertile and you can use this energy in many other different ways. Your ruling planet Mars is a big part of this lunation, and unfortunately his aspect is not a positive one. It's squaring the planet Mercury. So essentially this means that Aries has to be one of the people who has to watch what they say, or maybe you have to be very mindful of how you react to whatever news is going to be delivered at this time. Is possibly going to be news that's not welcome. So watch your reactions. Do not act in an aggressive manner if it's not necessary, if it's not you defending yourself. Essentially, do not start quarrels and fights with people, because whatever happens at this lunation, whatever happens at this lunation is not a passing event. The North Node is part of this conjunction. You're part of this conjunction. So this is your destiny. So whatever you do at this time, whatever reactions, good or bad, they will have lasting consequences. Taurus Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 4th house. The 4th house is an angle house. So whenever an angle is highlighted, it activates all the other angles. So it's going to activate the opposing angle, which is the MC, that has to do with your standing in society, your work, and authority figures. It's also squaring your partnership area, your marriage, your business partnerships, all type of committed relationships. It's also squaring your ascendant, and your ascendant is opposing your descendant. So there will be so the results could come from any of these areas, but you're going to feel it very deeply in the 4th house. And the 4th house rules over our home and our family. It also rules over our deep hidden resentments. This is also the house of our ancestors. So it could this lunation could bring in some information that is going to highlight your family and ancestry in some way. Taurus has a lot going on at this time. All the fixed signs are being hit from all the fixed signs are feeling this very intensely because they're being hit on the angles. On a positive note, if you've been wanting to move to a foreign country, this is an excellent time for you to start perhaps applying for your visa, or if you already did that application, this is the time that maybe that visa will come through and you will be able to travel and relocate to a foreign land. It's also very possible that some of you receive some rather upsetting news at this time. Your ruling planet Venus is not aspecting this lunation. However, Venus is transiting in the sign of Cancer and is aspecting your sign with a favorable aspect, a harmonious aspect called a sextile. So you have some power here, because if you're making efforts at this lunation to try and rectify situations and calm things down, smooth things over, you are Venus. This is what you're good at, negotiation. If you try and take that approach and calm all the negative energies that are coming from all types of that are coming from all different directions, you'll be able to experience some type of joy in your fourth house. The sign of Taurus has been going through major reconstruction, and you're hosting the conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in your sign. So you're going through some really rather heavy changes. So on this day of this lunation, or the few days following this lunation, you might have a bit of joy in your fourth house area, but in the background, you know there are bigger things happening. If you haven't watched my video on the Mars-Uranus conjunction, I suggest that you watch it, because that is the bigger thing that's happening in your life. That is the biggest energy that we're all going to be experiencing for the next few weeks. Also consider booking a reading with me. I'll have the link to the reading right below this video. Gemini Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your third house. This is the area where there'll be new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever we have a new beginning, something does have to end. The third house rules over our immediate environment, our siblings, our neighbors. So there could be a new beginning with any of these areas. So if you've been wanting to learn a new skill, or perhaps begin some type of course or study, this is an excellent time for you to initiate this study. And if you've been wanting to start a job that has to do with perhaps driving and delivering in your local driving locally in your neighborhood, this is an excellent time for you to initiate that business. And if you've been wanting to have talks with a sibling or a neighbor, perhaps to smooth over some old disagreements, use this energy to try and negotiate or reconcile the situation. Your ruling planet, Mercury, is very involved in this lunation. Mercury is involved in a T-square. He is opposing Saturn and squaring the Mars-Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus, and that conjunction is squaring Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. This is a very challenging aspect. So whatever is going to be going on at this lunation, you're going to be a big part of it. Perhaps you'll be the one delivering the negative news or upsetting news. Or in other situations, maybe this news is going to be delivered to you, and then you're going to react in a rather abrasive and aggressive way because of what you hear at this time. So if you have a hot temper, this is definitely not the time to just act without thinking, because when Mercury is transiting a fire sign, he is on fire. So you might react in a it's possible that you react in an unpredictable fashion. Cancer Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your second house. This is where you're going to have some new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever there's a new beginning, something usually has to end. The second house rules over our earning ability, the money we make, how we make a living. It also rules over our self-esteem. The second house also rules over what we put in the mouth and what comes out of the mouth. It also rules over the family that we make with another person, and this is the family that you make with a lover, a partner, or whoever. And in other cases, family can be defined as the friends that we've had in our life for a very long time, and we consider them to be family. So anything could be initiated in any of those areas. So perhaps you've been wanting to start a new business. This is an excellent time for you to start that business and go for it confidently, because your ruling planet, the moon, the luminary, is part of this lunation. The moon is always part of any lunation. So Cancer people tend to feel new moons and full moons on a personal level. The moon is being aspected by planet Jupiter in a positive, harmonious trine. So this energy is going to flow towards you very easily. So it will be very easy for you to make initiations in a business plan or a business venture or something to do with your self-esteem. This is very happy energy when Jupiter trines the moon. So you're going to feel good about yourself at this time. Your self-esteem will be improved at this lunation. You're going to feel good about whatever it is that you're going to initiate at this time. However, like I keep telling everyone, we have to be mindful of the conjunction that is happening in Taurus, the sign of Taurus, the Mars, Uranus, and North Node conjunction. This is the biggest transit that we're going to feel intensely, at least for the next 2 weeks. However, the ruler of this ruler of this conjunction, Venus, is currently transiting in your ascendant. This is making you feel very good. This is making you feel very good about yourself, confident, and other people are actually admiring you. And since the sign of Cancer sextiles the sign of Taurus, you might actually have a positive experience with this conjunction and this lunation. Leo ascendant, sun or moon. This lunation is happening in your sign. It's happening in your ascendant. The ascendant is the first house. And when the first house is activated, being that it's an angle house, it activates the opposing angle, the descendant, your partnership area, and it also activates your MC by square. The MC is got to do with our standing in society, our authority figures. What is it that you do for a living, our work? And then the MC opposes the IC, and that is the area of our home and family. So however, this is happening on the ascendant. So this has to do with you personally, your body. How are you seen? How are you seen by others? How would you like to be seen by others? Are you pleased with what? Are you pleased with the reflection in the mirror? Is there something that you would want to change about yourself? This is an excellent time for you to make those decisions and those changes. However, you have to think about those changes because they will have lasting implications, simply because we have a bigger transit going on and it's not too far away from this lunation. It's just about 2 to 3 days away. So whatever it is that you get excited about and change about yourself, just realize there's bigger consequences because of the actions that you take at this time. Not to sour your new moon, this is a time for you to do something that makes you happy, something that brings you joy, something that makes you shine. You want to be the center of attention at this time. After all, you are Leo. You own the stage. So this is an excellent time for you to do just that. Your ruling planet, the luminary, the sun, is always a big part of any lunation. Is always a big part of any new moon or full moon because you're ruled by the luminary. So you're always impacted by lunations in a rather personal way, in a rather intense way. At this particular lunation, the sun, the ruler of this lunation, is being aspected very positively by Jupiter, and this aspect is called a trine. Whenever we have a trine, whenever there's a trine, especially a trine with Jupiter, it makes the energy flow to us. This is energy that could bring spectacular results because you're simply at the right place at the right time. So definitely this is time for you to get out there, look your best and present yourself. Leo Ascendant has been through a lot because they're experiencing some type of opposition from their partnerships, some type of letting go in their home area. This is time for you to just relax and forget about your problems for a little bit and make sure not to be too fiery in speech because Mercury is transiting your sign, and you know how you guys can be. You can be very loud and outspoken, and this square to Mars is actually going to really activate that anger and that need to be heard. So just really be careful how you speak to others at this lunation. You don't want it to ruin your good mood, that you don't want it to ruin the good vibes and the good mood that you're going to have because of the trine from Jupiter. And if you need any guidance on how to navigate this energy, because it is a lot of energy coming at you and is still going to continue doing so, if you need any guidance, just click on the link below this video and book a reading with me. Virgo, Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 12th house. This is where you're going to have new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever there's a new beginning, we have to close some doors. The 12th house is a hidden house, and when we have the two luminaries, the sun and the moon, focused in a hidden place, in a dark place, it's going to highlight all the things that are there, the things that you probably didn't want to look at. You're going to be forced to look at them at this lunation. So if you have any self-sabotaging habits, this is an excellent time for you to make a decision to end these self-sabotaging habits. Habits like overeating, drinking too much, sexual addictions, drug addictions, lying, cheating. All those are things that we do behind closed doors. This might be the time that you decide to really clean up your act. Since the 12th house also rules over our hidden enemies, the conjunction of the luminaries might actually point out who your hidden enemies are in actual, as in the people who are backstabbing you. These people are going to be brought out into the open, and you probably have to confront them. And remember, there is an angry square from Mars and Mercury, which is your ruling planet. Keep in mind that you might be the one who is acting in a rather aggressive way and speaking very harshly towards, perhaps you get into a confrontation with one of your hidden enemies, with one of your friends who you just now discover is, after all, a hidden enemy. They've been working against you behind your back. So whatever it is that you discover at this time, just be mindful. Whatever you do, however you react, they're going to have lasting consequences, because the square is happening in a sign where the North Node is, and this North Node carries karma, and there's Mars, Uranus and the North Node squaring your ruling planet Mercury. So this could possibly have some uncomfortable news, but at the same time this conjunction is also aspecting your sign in a positive trine. So it is really a good news, bad news situation. You just have to watch yourself. Watch your surroundings and watch how you react, because hidden enemies and hidden situations could come at you in a rather aggressive fashion. So be mindful of your environment. If you're one of those Virgos that is traveling in a foreign country, this is a time to also be very, very mindful, because possibly something negative could happen to you in a foreign country. So this lunation is mixed bag. You could get some really positive things happen, and then you could also have some rather negative things happen. And remember we always have to keep in mind that the 12th house is the house of loss. So you may lose something at this. So you may lose something at this lunation, hopefully losing something that is not good for you, and starting new things that are actually good for you, things that are not going to be hurting you, things where you're not self-sabotaging. So put an end to the self-sabotaging arguments and try and avoid getting into confrontations. If you have to get into a confrontation, keep in mind that confrontation could actually turn physical and violent. And you might be very far away, and you might be traveling very far away from home. I'm just trying to warn you, because your ruling planet is aspected and because your ruling planet is aspected, and it's aspected in a negative way. Well, and when Mercury is transiting the sign of Leo, this can make you become very boastful and very fiery. It is fire energy, and it is squaring up to a fiery planet, and a planet that is unpredictable, and with a karmic point that brings about our destiny. Be very careful. Libra Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 11th house. This is where you're going to have brand new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever we have new beginnings, we have to make some endings. 11th house rules over our hopes, dreams, and wishes. This is the house where we get rewarded for all the work that we did in the 10th house. So if you've been working hard at your job, this is the time that you'd have a new beginning, and a new beginning, perhaps an elevation in status. You get a promotion, or you get a pay increase. And for some people, this could be the time that they meet a benefactor, somebody who comes into your life and possibly brings in funding for a project that you've been wanting to start. And because of them, you become very successful. And for some people, this could simply mean you have a new beginning with a friend, or perhaps you meet a new friend, a friend that you get to have fun with, a friend that you get to do fun activities with, like going to the gym, going to the park, anything that brings you joy in this area that you could do with another person. Some of you will have a new beginning in the groups and clubs that you belong to, and some of you will join a new club or a new social media platform at this time. And some of you could have a new beginning in your friendships. You could either take your friendship to the next level, or you could decide to end a friendship, or a friendship will end naturally just simply because your friend has moved away from where you live and it's kind of hard for you to maintain the friendship. Your ruling planet Venus is not really involved in this lunation. Venus is transiting the sign of Cancer. She likes to be in the sign of Cancer, but she does square your ascendant. This is a challenging aspect, especially since Venus is the host of the North Node and currently hosting Uranus and Mars all at the same time. And they're going to be aspecting this, and they're involved in a T-square. Your ruling planet isn't directly involved, but she is the ruler of this conjunction. So this is life-changing energy that's going to affect you, especially since Mars rules your descendant. So this is going to affect your relationships with others. Your ruling planet is squaring the asteroid Chiron at this lunation. So this is a challenging aspect that's going to bring complications. This is a challenging aspect that's going to bring complications in your intimate relationships. So this lunation might not. So this lunation is really a good news, bad news type of lunation. This lunation is in the sign of Leo, and Leo sextiles Libra. So this is harmonious energy. It's going to bring some happy feelings, some joy in the groups that you belong to, but there will be some confrontations and some irritating situations going on at the same time. It just depends on how all of this aspects your own natal birth chart to see which energy will prevail at the time of this lunation. Scorpio Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 10th house. This is the area where you're going to have brand new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever we have a new beginning, usually something has to end. The 10th house is a public house. So whatever happens in this area is going to be known, and it's going to be seen by society. This area rules over our standing in society, what we do for work, our authority figures. The MC opposes the IC. So essentially, when the MC is activated, it also activates the IC by opposition. Whatever it is that's going to begin in your 10th house is also going to be felt in your 4th house, in your home area. And it's also going to affect your descendant, your partnerships, your marriage, commitment, your marriage and your committed relationships and business partnerships or agreements. It's of course also going to affect you. So whenever an angle is activated, your whole life is activated, because the angles really tend to bring results. So if you've been wanting to have a new beginning in your work area, perhaps a job ended and now you have a new opportunity to begin a new job, or perhaps for some of you to start your own business. This is the area where we want to shine, and we can shine naturally. So look for opportunities. So if you're unemployed and you're looking for a job, this is an excellent time for you to really put your resume out there. Keep looking for jobs. It's very likely that you find something, and you find something that actually makes you happy. It brings joy in your life. And since the Leo house is the creative house, you could find a job where you can actually use your creative ability or your talents in some sort of way. This lunation is being aspected very positively by Jupiter. So whatever happens, whatever you initiate in this area is going to be given a lot of positive energy and support for you to be able to achieve what it is that you want to in this area. Of course, we can't ignore the bigger energy that is going on in your partnership area. The sign of Taurus, your descendant, is where there is going to be this conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. This is a very big karmic transit that can absolutely turn your life upside down. So if you haven't watched my video on this transit, your Mars, Uranus, and North Node conjunction, I suggest that you watch that video so that you get a bigger picture of what could be, so you have the whole picture, the bigger picture of what is really happening at this lunation. Because even though you have this great, wonderful new beginning, there could be bigger things happening in your chart. So definitely check that video out. And if you're still feeling confused about what's going on, I suggest that you book a reading with me. The link to the reading is right below this video. Your ruling planet Mars is very involved in this lunation. So, and it is squaring up with Mercury. So this is fighting words. This is some type of anger. And it could be coming to, and this is anger that could be coming out of you because you are Mars. So if you do have a hot temper, Scorpio, this is time for you to really rein it in, because whatever happens at this lunation, it could have lasting consequences, simply because you are conjunct. Mars is conjunct the North Node. This is karma. This is something that's going to stick around. It's in the sign of Taurus, a fixed sign. So just watch it. But if you are in a situation where you have to defend yourself, then you have to do what you have to do. But don't go out of your way to initiate quarrels and disagreements with authority figures. Your other ruling planet, Pluto, is actually widely trining the conjunction in Taurus. However, it is a very wide trine. So everybody's going to get their share of some good news and some bad news, but you have the power here to actually control your reactions. Sagittarius, Ascendant, Sun, or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 9th house. This is the area where you're going to have some new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever we have new beginnings, something usually has to end. However, the 9th house is a lucky house. It is a Sagittarian house. The 9th house is ruled by Jupiter, your ruling planet. And Jupiter is aspecting this lunation in a rather positive and harmonious trine. So you're feeling good at this lunation. Ninth house rules over the justice system, our legal system. It rules over foreign lands, foreign countries, and foreigners. The ninth house also rules over our belief. The ninth house also rules over our higher belief system. That could be religion or perhaps whatever belief system that was passed down to you from your parents or whoever raised you. This house also rules over priests, gurus, and such. It also rules over our professors and higher education. So perhaps some of you will have a very exciting new beginning in this area. And since this area also rules travel and travel to foreign lands, if you're one of those Sagittarians who felt grounded because of the pandemic, you couldn't go anywhere, this is an excellent time for you to have a new beginning. This is an excellent time for you to travel to a foreign country. Some of you could have new beginnings because you get accepted to a university that you thought you would never get into, and this really brings you a lot of joy. The Leo house is the house where we shine and shine naturally. So you might feel like a star at this lunation. Some of you may begin a lawsuit at around the time of this lunation, or maybe as a result of a lawsuit concluding. You're going to have a new beginning as a result of that conclusion. And for some of you that are religious, you could have a new beginning in your church, or perhaps you could decide to change your religion at this time. If you're going to travel around the time of this lunation, just be careful while traveling in foreign lands, because it's very likely that you meet with some type of disagreement with somebody. It's very likely that you meet with some type of disagreement with someone on the road, and they ruin your good vibes and good feelings, positive feelings that you're experiencing as a result of this lunation. So just be mindful that other people are not feeling that great, and they're not getting that, and they're not feeling the good vibes. Your ruling planet is aspecting both luminaries in a very positive way. So you are going to be feeling very good, very blessed, and feeling very emotionally confident. You're going to feel like and you're probably going to be looking great. Your ruling planet is also widely trine Mercury, who's however involved in a tug of war. He's involved in a T-square. So this is the other people who might be going. So you might be observing other people in these tough situations, and they may lash out at you just simply because you're emitting this positive energy and they're not feeling so great. So just be mindful that not everybody is feeling as good as you are. And however, we also have to keep in mind the bigger energy that is happening just a few days after this lunation, and that is the conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. They are bringing karma. This conjunction is bringing karma into our lives, and it's going to change and disrupt the area of your Taurus house. So just keep in mind that even though you're feeling great, that there might be some type of destabilization coming in your Taurus house. Capricorn, Ascendant, Sun, or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 8th house. The 8th house is where you're going to have some brand new beginnings and perhaps some endings. Whenever we have new beginnings, something has to end. The 8th house is the house of deep intimacy. This is the house where we bond with another. We share resources in the 8th house. It's the house of other people's money. Other people's money could also entail inheritances. So essentially, for you to get an inheritance, somebody has to pass on. And yes, the 8th house does rule those things. It rules over sex, death, and transformation. However, as a result of that transformation, you will get an inheritance. So if this is something that is due for you, you could have a new beginning in that area. Other people's money could be loans and mortgages, or perhaps taxes. So you could be presented with a tax bill at this time, or you could have a new beginning simply because you've paid off your taxes or you've paid off a mortgage. But for others who are wanting to get a mortgage, this is an excellent time for you to do so at this time. If you've been dating someone for a while, this could be the time that you decide to take this relationship to the next level. It could become more intimate. It could become more intimate. If it wasn't sexual, you could bring it to become a sexual relationship. And if it was already a sexual relationship, you could take it to the next level, as in you start sharing resources. So perhaps some of you may decide to move in together with a lover at this time and share your resources. And for some of you, this could be a new beginning with your partner. So perhaps your partner is the one that has, perhaps your partner's income has changed, and therefore affecting how much money you get for them in a positive way, or perhaps in a negative way, or perhaps a positive way, in that they have an increase in their earnings, and therefore you have more money coming to, therefore you have more money coming to you in different ways. It just all depends on what's really going on in your life and how this whole lunation is aspecting your own natal birth chart. Saturn, your ruling planet, is involved in a T-square. A T-square is a challenging aspect. Since Saturn is your ruling planet, perhaps you're the one who's bringing some type of restrictions to the relationship. So perhaps you are the one who's bringing some type of restriction, some type of limitations, or you have to make some type of limitations in the house of Aquarius, and this is affecting all the other houses involved in the T-square. Mercury is involved in this T-square and is opposing your sign. So you are involved in whatever disagreements, limitations that are going to come about at this lunation. However, the bigger picture here is the conjunction that is happening in your 5th house in the sign of Taurus. This is the this is the transit that's going to affect you and change your life in a big way. Planet Saturn is going to continue squaring this conjunction and reactivating it through the upcoming lunations. So essentially that means this is definitely a good news, bad news type of lunation, because you may be feeling good about some of the things that are happening in your, you may be feeling good and happy about some of the things that are going to initiate in your 8th house, but at the same time you might be dealing with some very challenging and rather difficult situations because of the T-square. If you're confused and you need guidance during this period that we're all going through and feeling feeling very intensely, I suggest you book a reading with me. The link is right below this video. Aquarius, Ascendant, Sun, Hormone. This lunation is happening in your 7th house. This is where you're going to have new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever we initiate something, we start something has to end. The 7th house is an angle house, so that means that all the other angles in your natal chart are going to be activated. The 7th house rules over our marriage, our committed partnerships, our business partnerships, and it also rules over business. So perhaps you're going to have some type of new beginning in any of you, so you are going to have a new beginning in any of those areas. The Leo house is where we shine and shine naturally. So there will be some type of beginning that's going to put your partnership at the center of attention. Or perhaps you're going to initiate something that's going to put your relationship, your marriage, or your partnerships into focus at this time. The descendant is going to be activated, so that means you are also going to be activated. Your ascendant opposes the descendant, and your MC, your standing in society, is also going to be activated, because whatever happens in your partnerships is going to affect you and could possibly affect your standing in society or the work that you do. And as a result of all these changes and all these points being activated, you might have a big change emotionally or in your home area or with your family. There will be some type of joy at this lunation, because you're going to have this new beginning in your relationships. Perhaps you're going to take a relationship to the next level. Perhaps some of you would decide to get married, or perhaps some of you will meet somebody at this lunation and decide to begin a relationship that could actually become a long-term relationship and turn into something more serious like marriage or some other type of partnership. For those Aquarians who've been feeling the limitation because Saturn is transiting your sign, you might decide to actually put more attention to your relationships towards your partner, and this is an excellent time for you to make those new beginnings to improve your relationship so you can have more joy from your partnerships. We can't ignore the bigger transit that we're all going to be experiencing just a few days after this lunation. This transit, this conjunction is going to definitely bring major changes to all the fixed signs. If you haven't watched my video on the conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node, I suggest you watch that video because it's going to give you a bigger picture of what could possibly transpire in the next few weeks. Your ruling planet isn't directly aspecting this lunation. However, Saturn is involved with an opposition with Mercury, who's transiting your partnership area. And Mercury, when Mercury is transiting Leo, they tend to it will make your partner become very boisterous and very flamboyant, and perhaps speak very openly about what they like or do not like. And since Mercury is involved in a square to Mars, to the conjunction that is upcoming, this could really bring up some fiery exchange, and in some cases perhaps even some violence. This is the T-square that could ignite at around the time of this lunation, and this is the T-square that you are involved in. You have a say in this situation, and you have to be mindful and careful how you deliver whatever it is that you're saying to your partner. They could lash out and become very aggressive and react in a very unexpected way. Pisces Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 6th house. This is the area where you're going to have some new beginnings and perhaps some endings, because whenever we begin anything, something has to end. So the 6th house rules over our daily routine, what we do on a daily basis, our diet, our food, and also our exercise regimen. Essentially, it also rules over your health. The 6th house also rules over the work that we do. It also rules over our co-workers and to some extent our bosses. But more than anything, it rules over our co-workers. And our co-workers are not our friends. Our co-workers could become a known enemy in any given situation, perhaps a situation where there is a promotion or perhaps a chance to make more money and there is a competition for that position or a prize. You will be competing against your co-worker, and therefore your co-worker essentially has now become a known enemy because you're in a competition. Somebody has to go down. So always keep that in mind. So if there's been an ongoing quarrel if there's been an ongoing quarrel or disagreement with a co-worker, there could be a new beginning at this lunation, in that you decide to end this quarrel and shake hands and start a new page, have peace in the work environment. For some people, it could be the new beginning actually of an argument or perhaps even a lawsuit. If there has been a hostile work environment, some of you could decide to initiate a lawsuit at this time. And for some of you that had an ongoing lawsuit against an employer, this is possibly the time that this lawsuit could be concluded and you have a new beginning, in that you may decide to quit this job and start your own business because you won some money, or perhaps you start a new job altogether. For others who have been unemployed, this is an excellent time for you to start looking for a job, because it's very likely that you find employment, gainful employment, that you will be happy, that will make you happy or bring some type of joy. since Leo rules your 6th house, you want to have some type of joy in what you do, in the services that you provide for others. You take some pride in your services. This is what makes you an excellent and dependable worker. Your ruling planet Jupiter is involved in this lunation, and Jupiter is aspecting this lunation in a positive trine, and this trine is going to bring some joy. You are ruled by Jupiter, so you will be feeling lucky and blessed at the time of this lunation. However, we have to keep in mind that there's some other rather challenging aspects going on at this time, so that smiley face, that joyous good vibe feeling that you have going on inside is possibly going to annoy other people who are experiencing the rather challenging aspects at this lunation. Your other ruling planet Neptune is also involved in a harmonious trine with Pluto, who's currently transiting the sign of Capricorn. So this is also supportive and transformative energy. We can't ignore the bigger energy that is going to be happening and exacting in a few days after this lunation, and that is the conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in the sign of Taurus. Pisces is going to experience this conjunction in a rather positive way, simply because your sign sextiles Taurus, and that is harmonious energy. However, we can't conclude that it's going to be all well. We have to see. It all depends on what else is going on in your own natal birth chart. That is going to determine how this is eventually going to work out for you. And if you're confused and you would like to have some guidance so you can understand the energy of this conjunction, I suggest you book a reading with me. The link is right below this video. Pisces, you're a very sensitive soul. Just remember that there will be some angry people out there, and there'll be some angry people out there who are ready to do anything and ready to fight and react some of them will be reacting in a rather unpredictable, aggressive and unexpected way. So just be very, very aware of your surroundings, even though you're feeling very good and happy, or perhaps even rather confident at this lunation.